Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $3.37 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off 1.7%. Bitcoin 104,000 plus, Ethereum 2,500 plus. XRP number 4 spot is $2.15. We're flat on the 24 and we're up 0.2 on the 7-day. Ranging between 215 and 218. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's talk about this. Now, I covered this in my first video, but it's that important. If you haven't heard, there's a record-breaking 16 billion passwords, including Apple, Facebook, and Google, that have been leaked in the largest data breach ever confirmed. This is scary, scary stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Scary stuff. But listen, that's why I told you, Caleb and Brown, listen, if you want to be on an exchange, you got all the flexibility you need to go in and out of whatever assets you want. If you want to know about security, they have multiple layers of security at Caleb and Brown. And let me tell you what else. Free institutional grade custody. And you could call and talk to a human customer service rep or even speak to a prime broker directly about your market orders being correct. This is the level of service you're looking for. They've got it. And I tell you, you're not going to find the human customer service anywhere the way you find it at Caleb and Brown. Now, with that being said, go to xrpwealth589.com, xrpwealth589.com. Start getting the best night's sleep you've ever had since you've been into crypto, because the truth is, that's what I'm looking for from the platforms that I use. And you guys know I'm on multiple platforms. And the reason I am is because ever since I've been in this space, I've been scared to have all of my assets in one basket. So that's why I'm here. And that's why I like Caleb and Brown. And you will too. Click the link underneath the video to get started. Let's start right here. Oh boy. Well, here's somebody who's, I'll tell you what. Oh boy. I just better let him say it. Brace yourself. He's not an XRP fan at all.
XRP or Ripple was established before stablecoins were even a thing. And then you have Ripple issuing its own stablecoin, but then also trying to buy other stablecoins, but then banks issuing their own stablecoins as well. So we seem to be flooded with stablecoins. If you were an investor, would you be buying any XRP?
I can't with good conscience think that's a good investment until such time as Ripple or the producers of XRP hold none of it on their balance sheet, until such time as that's mitigated to less than 1% of supply or issuance. Then I don't think XRP is an investable asset. I hate to say it. So I don't want to be too derogatory to XRP, because I know a lot of people have invested a lot of money in it. I know a lot of people who have staked their life savings on XRP, and for the life of me, I think that that's going to be a very, very costly mistake, and I hope it isn't, but that's my take on things.
Wow. Hey, you got to give it to the guy for being polite, right? He don't want to be too derogatory. Just because you're polite doesn't mean you're right. More for us. Listen, God bless this guy and his concerns, but I think one of the largest things that a lot of people miss in this space, and dare I say it, this gentleman too, it's the introduction of new money. It's the introduction of new assets to the world. You know, not first, but the crisis in 08 and 09 was a real estate default swap crisis. They kept repackaging bad loans over and over and over. This time, and of course, and then after that, what did we have? We had the pandemic, and then the pandemic was print, right? Causing even more problems. This time, the trouble isn't in the real estate market. This time, the trouble isn't just the stock market. This time, the trouble is with the monetary system of the world. It is at the feet of the central banks. Make no mistake about it. And they need new assets and a new set of payment rails to get the world on a new digital on-chain economy, working in synthetic and digital assets alike, so they can begin to restart and reinvigorate the economy of the world and the new digital on-chain economy. And meanwhile, that's going to take Ripple Ripple and the UK getting together here. Ripple is urging the UK policymakers to accelerate crypto regulation, laying out 4-point strategy, which is pretty basic and simple. Obviously, I'll give it to you on their post. Build a growth-driven framework, lead on global standards, advance stablecoin adoption, tackle tokenization. Obviously, that involves real-world tokenized assets and more. But you can see the marriage of the digital asset leaders in the space coming together with the governments and the regulators now. Coinbase secures MICA license in Luxembourg, unlocking regulated crypto access to all 27 Euro states and 450 million users. I want to remind you that also Ripple has a license in Ireland that opens them up to the entire EU as well. Then you have this right here. This is Ondo Finance sharing a conversation, a candid conversation between Nathan from Ondo and Sergey from Chainlink. Nathan was fantastic, but for the sake of this conversation and where we're going in this video, I want to play Sergey's comments starting right here.
I agree. I think there's a few things that still need to be clarified. I think there are some old things like in the OCC interpretive letters and other places that things need to be cleaned up, like the Fed cleaned some stuff up recently and that allowed banks to hold crypto on their balance sheet. And some things need to be cleaned up. Some things need to be more clear so that DeFi and certain approaches to tokenization like yours can go forward. I think both of those categories are still needed. I'm very hopeful about the stablecoin bill. I think that'll pass. That'll obviously be positive for the industry and overall for you folks as well and adoption.
And obviously that was previous before the bill had passed. It's passed the Senate.
I think then market structure is the next big thing, which I think some people are hopeful before the August recess, and I'm not exactly clear that's possible. But I think it's a very positive time in DC. If there was like ever a good window for the U.S. Regulatory system and frameworks to adopt the types of standards and the clarity that you just described, I think that was the time, basically.
No question about it. And again, I think that's why Ripple's urging the UK to get clear on their regulations. You know, the US and the UK a lot of times will go hand in hand and mirror, even though they have different, regulatory setup. There's much less regulation, layers of regulation in the UK than there is in the United States. But nonetheless, they will mirror a lot of times what they're doing. So I see that global cooperation taking place, and obviously everything is in full force here. So let's keep going, because here's another side of this equation that cannot be ignored. 659 billion plus dollar bank says foreign exporters no longer want to be paid in dollars, preferring euros, Chinese renminbi, and Canadian dollar and Mexican peso. And when I go in here, they are in fact talking about large manufacturers that do global trade that are now suggesting where we used to previously trade in dollars, we're now going to these other currencies instead. For example, one U.S. bank client, a lumber company from the Midwest, now uses euros to purchase hardwood imports from Europe, while a second homeware retailer now plans to pay imports in China with yuan instead of dollars previously. This is what cannot be ignored, ladies and gentlemen. This, make no mistake about it, at my house, is what this new digital asset class being ushered into the financial system is about. It's about getting the dollar dominance back and getting ourselves over to a new digital on-chain economy, a set of new payment rails that are not as antiquated and vulnerable as the current rails that the world runs on today. And meanwhile, Visa is not letting any grass grow underneath of their feet. Visa is expanding its stablecoin operations across Europe, in the Middle East, and Africa, partnering with African crypto exchange Yellow Card. It's funny because, Michael Branch asked the question, isn't Visa a Ripple partner? There was Earthport and Currency Cloud, and there were some loose indirect ties between Ripple and Earthport and Currency Cloud, but not a definitive partnership. So it does seem to be an indirect connection. But nonetheless, we know that MasterCard is working with Ripple. So Visa has to have an answer. So you can see here the connection used in the diagram here. And companies are not allowed to use other companies' diagrams for these things. you know, you're not allowed to portray or mislead people in that manner, right? But here's the thing, just a day ago, we heard everyone screaming at the skies, at the heavens, right? That Visa and MasterCard tanked 5% based on the stablecoin bill Genius Act passing because it threatens their world. What's threatening about them? They're expanding stablecoin operations into Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. That's, you know, it's all a part of the plan. Again, we know MasterCard works with Ripple, right? Let's just hear him say it.
And doing so, we're working with a number of different partners, you know, with Ripple, TBS.
And so on. So you have it, right? And then we see this, JP Morgan and Coinbase to launch stable coins. JP Morgan is teaming up with Coinbase to pilot JPMD, a new digital dollar. This combines the credibility of JP Morgan and Base to bring institutional money into more global economy. You know, again, you can see all of this legacy firms coming and molding with the leaders in the digital asset space right now. Whether it's Ripple and Hidden Road, whether it's JP Morgan and Coinbase, you're going to see more and more and more of this. And by the way, we're not far away, I believe, of seeing the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargos and alike come in and start to offer not just stable coins, but crypto services as well. This is about to be a free-for-all in this market, especially when legislation passes. All right, let's take a look at this really quickly here because there's some other things that are pending that will, I believe, create a real upward demand for XRP. And what is it? Largely speaking, DeFi applications for XRP, the asset, one of which is Flare Networks. Flare Networks, Hugo Filion, and everybody working on Flare has had their head down for years working on that system. And what do we know about DeFi platforms? We know that usually it is the bridge from where you're taking your assets to the DeFi platform that is the vulnerable bridge where most people get attacked and hacked. They claim to have that fixed. We will see how that goes in real time, but they claim to have all of that solved, so that is not an issue going forward. Hugo is very proud of what they've built, and take a listen to what he says here.
Vivo Power is really the first treasury company for XRP. You can think of it a bit like MicroStrategy, Saylor's company, but for XRP instead of for Bitcoin. Firelight will offer XRP staking, i.e. the ability to stake XRP to get a yield. This is a very interesting and hopefully valuable proposition for the XRP community to be able to remain long their XRP asset, but also get a yield on it at the same time. When you design protocols, you can't be certain. You think they're going to work, but before you've built them and before you see how they work in the real world, they are purely theoretical, right?
That's exactly right. And that's what we're about to see is we're going from theoretical to practical application. And I couldn't be more excited to watch this happen for Flare Networks. And don't forget also, not only is Vivo Power NASDAQ listed company using them and XRP for treasury management, but they're also, Flare Networks is going to be working in conjunction with Coinbase. So this is getting super, super exciting. Now, all of this DeFi, as it opens up, again, Flare Networks isn't going to be the only one. You don't think there aren't going to be plenty of DeFi products rolling out? Well, of course there are. Opportunities on crypto exchanges, opportunities elsewhere. There's going to be banks, I believe, that offer these opportunities as well. All of this creates more upward pressure on price because it takes all of the loose XRP off of the market. Now, with that being said, I'm super excited about it. I know you guys are getting excited about it too, but we also have all of the ETFs. Remember, we're still waiting for like around 17 to 20 XRP spot ETFs to be approved. And here we see Polymarket is saying, according to Monix here, 98% of Polymarket users predict the XRP ETF approval in 25. Next up, let's take a look at July and see if we get something in July. So this is getting exciting to me. Like I said, all of this stuff takes XRP off the market. And then you bring in all the financial institutions that need to make payments every day, all the payment providers that need to make payments every single day without fail. And it is just going to be something to watch. I really do believe that. And nothing like watching it with your bags full, right? So it's always been about the XRP escrow, the secret weapon ready to be deployed. Take a listen to this.
So they're behind the scenes of what everybody can see, okay? The stuff that I don't understand, and probably a lot of people don't understand, that gets talked about up here. That's what they're doing, and they've been doing it for such a long time. And if you look at their founders' profiles, if you look at the CVs of these guys, okay, or these people, because there are a lot of people in there, they're mission focused. We can compare them to investment bankers. We can compare them to the military. You compare them to whatever you want. They are mission focused, and they're staying at it. They haven't deviated. And I know the whole escrow situation is probably what's keeping a lid on XRP price. And the way to take that lid off is to get those out of escrow, because the use case is building and people need them. And that literally is what we believe and see Ripple doing. Okay, so as they do that, every new development that creates a demand for XRP, that somebody needs to hold XRP or use XRP, that's chipping away at that escrow amount. And eventually, when all that's gone, that's when you're going to see the true price appreciation, whatever it may be.
And truthfully, is it all the escrow that's gone, or will it just be put into a U.S. Treasury and held like reserves like oil? That's what I believe happens. And then the rest of the world is dealt with and left to deal with the circulating supply and making that work. Because holding some back is a smart decision if you're looking at it from the way of controlling oil reserves or controlling monetary policy on an asset. You have to have some that you can constantly release out or take back off of the market in order to price control and continue to leave an open market for price, but to make sure that you take away a lot of the large volatility that exists in the market as well. And a lot of doing that is switching this market from a speculative market that it has been since its inception to a price-driven by utility market. Utility needs to be the price driver in this market to begin to remove some of the volatility. But nonetheless, there's going to be a moment, a threshold, if you will, where that is going to be at play, and that fight will be at play. How long that lasts, I don't know. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think we see utility become the price driver of this market, certainly by 26. And that is going to be super exciting, because I think everything changes at that point. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. Have a great weekend. I'll catch all of you on the next one.